Guys, another CEO Wisdom Podcast Space Edition with Jainul Abedin. He is a young guy founding a very cool company called Abyom SpaceTech. We're going to talk about space. We're going to talk about his young ambition, his background. Jainul, welcome to the pod. Tell us a bit more about yourself and tell us a bit more about your company in the same time.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for having me here. It's pleasure to be connected here. So, Abyom, like you have taken an example, like a dream of small youngs. As all beginning in the childhood, we have a dream to go into the space when we see the skies and the galaxies. But if we come into the reality, we go into deep like, is it possible to go into the space and become an astronaut? So mostly 99% people are have only dream, not able to make the dreams into reality. So when I was a childhood, I was also have a more dreams to become an astronaut. How can you make a space accessible for everyone? So into the childhood, I was a dream like let's make a transportation system that can go from Earth to space, and that is my idea when I was just 16 years old from like my school times. And I when I like a 3 years gap, I build the plan. How can you make a launch vehicle company which could like privately build the rockets and launch into the space. So when I was in the graduation timing, I thought it is the right time to push our dreams into the reality. And at the age of 90, I started this company, Abyom SpaceTech, which has the main focus to build the reusable launch vehicle. Because if we see like into the global market, only some key players are building the reusable launch vehicle technologies. And after NASA's, the private companies we talk is SpaceX and Blue Origin only there. But if we talk about the APAC, like Asia Pacific regions, and especially in India, like only ISRO had the government provider who are working into the rockets and building and launching into the space. So we come into that like also how can you build this private space ecosystem and build the regional technologies so a small young dream can be made into the reality. And I will say like in 2020 we officially started this company and make a number of progress to reach that goal to build a rocket and launch into the space.
Right. Okay, let's start with like, yeah, your age, quite ambitious. And I think it's a good decision for youngsters out there to go for their dream straight off the bat because you're young, you've got time to fail. The kids are not coming and all these stability pillars in your life that are somewhat bad for moonshots and accomplishing big things in life. So good decision on that. You mentioned that, yeah, 99.999 people, person on this planet do not get to launch a space company, let alone being an astronaut. I think that astronaut, there's a lot of zeros there. So like, yeah, congrats on that. You've got guts. Obviously, you've got something different than most humans. You've got this ambitious, this energy, and this, these balls to act on your vision. Why do you think you have this courage, this boldness that most of your peer would never dream of having?
Yeah. So if we talk about that, like mostly all our team and we also are belong to the rocketry team. During our college times, we have a fascination to build the smaller rockets and launch into the some like a height or apogees. Mostly, so we have a like a things like if in our initial times we have also launched into the as a team into the like SA Cup that is happening into the USA. So we thought like if we have a capability to build the small rockets, why we move to the building a company which is able to build bigger rockets and can able to launch into the space. So it is not only the putting humans into the space. If we talk about now, it is the necessity how the contribution of the internet and data is coming. So we need more satellites into the space so we create precise data to use our necessaries internet and other communications, telecommunications things. So we thought like we build this type of technologies and start doing from if you take like a 3 to 4 years, definitely we'll reach that milestones because already a number of company has proven the technologies. So we have to move and have to be act as a team to build this technology and make it true.
Right. Then funding, right? Because these things, they cost quite a lot. You've studied space companies out there in the world. VCs are kind of catching up nowadays and dropping checks on these companies, not because they're going to be profitable, but just because VCs like saying, "Oh, I launched a Phallus shaped object in the space," and they can tell that to their friends around a glass of wine. Um, where did you get your money so far? Is it like the Indian government funding your venture so far?
Yeah, definitely. Because if we see like in India, like we have number of government supports we are getting. So initially government started the supporting the new startups who are building some cutting edge technologies. So we got the different government grants to build our initial prototype of the launch vehicles. So you can see like in couple of like a half and 1 year in the journey, we have built our own testing facility, rocket engine testing facility. And this testing facility are very important because in all over India, only ISRO has such facility to build the engine and test on their own testing facilities. So initial we have covered with the government funds, and now we are moving like a progressing our POC and moving to the next phase. We'll definitely look for the VC funds. So now we are in the precision of that, like how can we tackle the like private fundings and will be make it the like a launch vehicles in the coming years.
Hey, the testing facility, are you are you saying that this is like a some kind of pad or a place where you can hold down rocket, fire it, and test its power, test if it will explode or not? I guess that's what you're mentioning, some kind of lab. So in a warehouse somewhere in India. Have you, well, I'm guessing you haven't started building the rockets yet. How much do you budget for that? How much funding do you need to raise to start building these rockets?
So if you can see like starting, it's definitely looking forward to $2 to $3 million for starting the prototype of the engines, next scaling the engine and all. But in the coming future, definitely we look for the more than 50 to $100 million to make the whole launch vehicles and launch into the space. So for initially, like we start with the $5 to $10 million and move to 50 to $100 million to make it whole launch vehicle and starting the launching to the commercializing the rockets.
And how much percent of the company do you want to give up for 2 to 3 million?
So it's like under the like if you case it's the due diligence is already happening and the financials are also ready. So when the investors start approaching, will be like we'll give the more details of the data as what our financial like agreements and what is the more details we are looking forward to raise and what are the terms and all. So we make the proper financial plans and details as we will start approaching that will be reveal what the fund on which timeline we require. So it will be like under the parts will be when will we start approaching to the investors will be discuss how much we require and how can we offer them for.
Right. And as part of that, like most of these companies, yes, they depend on these on this VC money to build, but they also have a bunch of government grants. So how is India comparing to other countries in terms of financing innovation? But because I know that in SpaceX case in the US or in Canada, for example, the government gives out quite a lot of money, very substantial amount of money to finance these companies. What about India?
Yeah, it's very important. Like if India is now is emerging the and supporting a lot of innovative technologies and innovative startups. If we say like NASA has opened the USA government has opened the space sector privately a long time back, but now I think we'll see like India is also in 2020 government of India opened the space sector for the private players. So if it says it's the golden era for the Indian space technologies where government started supporting and giving the more government supports with the like launching launch pad and facility providing mentoring supports and all. So I will say as government has opened this space sector for the private players, the most opportunities are bringing. So how they can like bringing the more government supports into the launching as well as the like all the government beneficiaries and all the policies, because the policy are very important how it will regulate. So now I think the government of India has opened the space sector for the private players, so it all the supports are coming from the ISRO's itself, how the private space ecosystem will emerge in India. So I will say from funding to mentoring, all the government of India supports are coming very hugely.
Right. When are you seeking a successful rocket launch, and what would be that rocket, and what would be the purpose of that first successful launch?
Okay, so mostly we have three launch vehicles in the three categories. because first one is the like a reusable sound rocket. It is called the suborbital rockets. We know like each subsystem going into this space. Before going into this space, we have to be trial and have to test all the subsystems. So for that, we use a sounding rocket, that is the suborbital rockets. So we are planning this rocket into the 2025 end, and then proving all the concept of the initial subsystems of the avionics and all the parts of the engine and the rockets. We'll move for the next of our launch vehicle, that is the small reusable launch vehicle that has the capability to put 1 to 2 tons like payload into the space. So that is like have a capability to like we are going to launch up to the 2017 end. And ultimately our ultimate launch vehicle, that is the medium reusable launch vehicle, that can have a like capability to go into the geo transfer orbit, that is 33,000 kilometers. So that is mostly for the telecommunication and defense purposes. So that will be, we are planning to 2029 or 2030 end.
2029, so in like 4 to 5 years from now, well, 5 to 7 years from now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and how much launches do you want to do before you're successful? Are we saying 3 launches, one will be successful out of 3?
Yeah, so for the our RSR, we are planning to launch multiple launches because it's orbital launches and have a different commercial purposes also. Like we got microgravity experiments, we do a lot of D&E atmosphere experiments. So we are planning to launch these rockets annually more than 6 times. And SRLB, we are planning like a 4 initially for testing and all, and then we'll be continue yearly and like have a multiple per month launches will be occur.
Right, and we're talking about 3 to 5 million per launch.
No, it's like initial have a engine budget, but like if we go for this launch vehicle manufacturing, it will definitely go up to 50 to $100 million. Because if we
Per
talk,
launch,
yeah,
what is the cost per launch approx?
so it will be around $60 million, like for the initial first reusable launch vehicle.
Wow.
So it's how it will
And
be,
then
but
you can reuse the rocket so that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not as expensive.
Yeah.
But
That
60
is the
million
bad.
still looks quite expensive. Like SpaceX, well, SpaceX really struggled initially in building their first rocket. So it mostly goes in R&D and testing.
Correct.
And then because like you can't like copycat a rocket of SpaceX. You really need to build your own, and that's quite extensive. And then begs the question, like, who will you hire to do this? Like, because you're near Russia. Russia has like great expertise, but then there's geopolitical questions. Will you import talent from the Silicon Valley? I mean, India has launched stuff before, and that has some experience in the space. So like, is India sufficient to provide the full talent you need for your first successful launch, is my question.
Yeah, if we talk about the building, because spaces have already done, Blue Origin also have done the vertical and VTVL testing and all. So if you see in the last 10-20 years, a number of already the research has been published, a number of data are already available. The main thing are have to accumulate all things and have to be going to the right directions. So in that way, like if you bringing in the new R&D team and have to be working on that. So within 3 to 4 years, if you regularly working and the government of India has the supports. Also, the ISRO has the more capability, or recently have tested the RLB TD experiments and all have been already done. So I will say definitely a number of already bunch of data are already available, a number of experiments are already available. So if we have to be replicate and have to be go with the precisely with the different technology aspects, we can easily achieve that. Because if you see Rocket Lab and the companies have already taken that technology in the coming 5 to 10 years. So it's not, if you see like the data we already have a study and going through the trial and error methods, so we'll be easy in the coming times for that concept.
Right. Okay. And then like, you're quite young as a CEO. Like, do you think this will matter if you hire this rock star of an engineer that has built rocket? How do you make sure that they will accept your offer and take you seriously?
Yeah, definitely. Like if we start, it's always start with the small, right? When we take the steps, when we make it to the like a progress when we make the progress. It's like things like, yeah, we are have a progress and we have done something on hand. So I will say, like when I was in like 2019 when I started, so already we have covered 4 years, and in the 4 years we have done a number of experiments, number of progress we have already achieved. The milestones we have covered in the 4 years last 2019 to 2023, it will be definitely like a glimpse. Now we are the one, India is one of the key space tech player. So we have the now proven some capability. We have to move for the next phases of the launching and after testing.
I also think that if you have a nice board of advisors, just like board members, that can help you quite a lot to get notoriety and the trust of these people, and obviously money, right? If you have good
Correct.
money to attract them, they're gonna accept your offer. I do think also that if you attract Indian talent and have that Indian pride, you're gonna attract like top talent's gonna be like the India team, competing against the rest of the world. Now you mentioned telecommunication and defense. I need more details on both of these. So telecommunication, obviously, satellite is the future of the world. You get connection everywhere, Starlink style. You can be in the Antarctic and working and making deals. That is Elon's dream. Connectivity everywhere you go in the world, and constant connectivity, like 99.999% of the time. Tell us about the telecommunication first, and then I want to talk about the defense stuff. So the spy stuff and James Bond stuff to observe the villains from space.
Yeah. Okay. So if you talk about the satellites, like as per data, like 2030s, more than 40,000 satellites are going to be launched. But if you see like the launch providers, like very limited into that. As we have data, like more than 10,000 are have the solicitors who have who need the space services. But in whole world, only 28 companies who are the active launching the services and all. So definitely there'll be a shortage of the suppliers in term of launch vehicles companies. So definitely we need a number of launch vehicle company who can put their like satellite into the orbit. And to that, the things we need in specific in India also, like because have a very growing need of the data as well as the like a precise like a Google Maps and all the things. So we have a need a private launch vehicle who can launch that, and also like a very like a cost effective way. Like if we talk about the like expendable rockets, they are very more costly into the per kg payload capacities. But bringing the reusable technology, it will be like reducing a lot of like bunch of monies in respect of the expendable rockets. So I will say like this market will be definitely be bettered in a different way and have to be moved into this reusable category very quickly.
Okay, the defense stuff now, like India needs to have information and defend itself from potential threats. Is it like mostly imagery nowadays? For example, in the Ukraine case, I just finished Ashley Vance's book about space, which is quite good. And it was this I forgot his name. I know his pre-name Max. He had this company, this space company, and he used satelllital image to picture Russian troops at the Ukraine border, and he became a very central figure during the war, helping defend Ukraine with his satellite technology, which was quite cool. Is this what you have in mind, and how do you make sure that your technology is used for good?
Yeah, so basically, if we talk about the defense, it comes as security. For every country's security is very important. Like, and we need a number of confidential data and all have to be secure into that. But like in our perspective, we are not able to going into the defense like as like, but have a propulsion systems. The propulsion systems which are building is a dual use of technology into the systems. So the dual use of technology of the rockets are also into the defense. So for the security purpose, we have to definitely make sure we have an indigenous technology in India. We have not to be like import and like export all things from outside and all. So we are focusing to the different aspects where we could like help to make indigenous technology in India and which help like used by the Indian government and all. So the not to be like aspect of the launching the like the satellites which are like to be given the data, but more into the indigenous technology in respect to the propulsions and all the subsystems of the rockets.
Last question for you. It looks to me very much that rockets are outdated technology. I believe that in 5 to 10 years, we're gonna see completely different technology. Seems to me very archaic to push the ground with massive energy to get up. But Elon is probably smarter than I, 10x in that field. Why haven't anyone has thought of a new solution? To get off the ground and to accomplish her goals there, like also why rockets, do we need that much weight, can we go just like way more lightweight? Can't we think of other technology to get off the ground, to get in space? What do you think about that?
So if we talk about the like when we start with the rockets, it's like we always say like it's not rocket science, like it's the toughest thing into the world. But if that like that technology you have to be like already seen like how the regulations are effectively like not comprehensively have to be when you have to go for the launch. It need a number of regulations from the government to the all the system. So the regulations are very challenging in aspect of if you build the rockets, but the regulations are very tight for any government for any we can't launch from anywhere, right? So geopolitical, geo stationary and geo like situations are very critical for launching into the rockets, and like a number of countries can't be into that because they have not exact location from there we can launch rockets, right? So in respect of the inner India, our geo location are very like important where you can launch the rockets, right? So it is like now the things are coming like if you see like 20 years back when SpaceX has not done the original launch vehicle, it's very tough for imagine anyone. But when a number of companies have proven these technologies, yeah, we are capable. So it's giving us all the boost and have a confidence like if we come and have a right of kind of actions if we do, it can be definitely be easy to possible to make the reality. So that's the things I will say like a number of companies also come into the last 10 years who have make rockets and now successfully launching into the space. So I will say like for India as well as like a brightening future into the rocket technologies, and we are definitely on the right path to make it reality into that.
Interesting. It's been a cool talk, Jainul. You're young, you're bright, and yeah, you're fearless. I really like that about you. Where can people find out more about you and Abyom?
Definitely, thank you so much. Like, yeah, we are like young minds. We will say like, and we have thriven like age is not a number. If we take the steps, we can definitely prove what we are going to achieve. It takes time. I will say definitely it takes 3 to 4 years when have to be very struggle, have to go into the very tough lines. But when we cross the timelines of the difficulties in our life, we'll go into the success path. So I'll say definitely we'll take have to action, have to be consistently move forward. So one day we'll definitely achieve our goals and all.
All right, then people can find out more about you at abyom.com. Abyom is with a
Yeah,
Y. And yeah, they can find out more about you on LinkedIn, I guess.
yeah, I'm very active on the LinkedIn. Yeah,
So
yeah.
Jainul Abedin on LinkedIn.